It's been a couple days since the Lost Ark broadcast, and it's got me really confused. I was gonna let it be, but now the gem details are out, and yeah, let's talk about it. Now, I want to make this clear, I really do wish for Lost Ark to get better. I would love to see any month of year one numbers, but I just can't ignore the bad things. I think that talking about them is a good way to make conversation for improvement. Failure is the fastest way to improve. You watch your matches, you watch your VODs, and you see what you did wrong so you don't make those mistakes again. It's the same reason why people do art critiques. When you get second place, you are more hungry to get first next time. I'm saying this because I know there's going to be somebody who's like, this guy's a fucking doomer. We're going to start this off with a little bit more positive note though. There was a few good things I saw on the stream that kind of stood out to me. The first being adding revives to raids, as he did talk about how they didn't really want to do this for a long time, but then they did it. As we all know, when a support dies in the raid, it's almost like it's time to restart right away. So having that one revive, I think is really great. They also mentioned adding more cards to wanting merchants, more important cards, so that's also really good as well. That is something we as a community have talked about for a long time and they've just ignored until now. Lastly, he also talked about his regrets as a director. It's not that often we hear people say that they screwed up. He did mention that there are too many vertical systems, which is something I absolutely agree with. I've always talked about system bloat. I think they are now more willing to look at different solutions than what they normally would. Though that doesn't mean they're always going to be good. We'll talk about gems later. Starting off with damage meter, their excuse is that it will further divide the player base. They're basically afraid it's going to add towards gatekeeping. And the thing is, they're not wrong. And while it's not wrong, it's not like gatekeeping is new. Just like the game has been since forever, people are just going to use other metrics instead. Which does lead them into wanting to further nerf raids, or more accurately, just normal mode raids. Nerfing raids does make sense if you really want to let people have an easier time playing together. I would love to see the data of how many people do normal versus hard every week though. Because in my eyes, everybody wants to eventually move on to hard mode, or they want to do it right off the bat. But I do feel like normal probably has gotten a bit more popular, as people have started to realize that they can't afford the entire roster to go up to hard. But that doesn't change the fact that hard is still going to be the same difficulty, and it's going to have the same amount of gatekeeping going on. And so this comes off as feeling like it's a half measure. Because again, they say that they want people to play together, but then they're only affecting part of the community with this. This is good for people who don't want to do hard mode. But if they feel like they ever want to move up to hard mode, since normal mode is going to feel a lot easier, they're going to be going back to getting hard gatekept. And there is a pretty high chance if everybody does normal, they're going to go back to doing things exclusive to hard mode drops. Because that was the main reason why they had to do those changes in the past before. A lot of people in Korea were pretty content with doing normal mode until they started adding things exclusive to hard mode. Now, they did say they worked on the 1600 to 1620 honing, which is great. However, just like Elixirs on their 8th change, it was just addressed way too late. Which of course is intentional. They wait for things to be near obsolete for them to nerf it. Because, well, the truth is they already milked you. Now, I listened to Wine Blue's translation about all this, and for a quick one line, the director did say something about a progression and farming system. Well, a new system. My hope is this is going to lead to something about replacing things like Chaos, Una, and Guardian raids. Hopefully we get details on that sooner than later. And along with that, they also did really quickly mention that they want to lower progression cost. They did mention they want to add more horizontal content. And in my eyes, I think to make horizontal content more desirable, they need to lower the amount of required vertical bullshit that you had to deal with to do the one part of the vertical content you like, which is raids. So I do think if they lower the amount of vertical, that horizontal does have a good chance to flourish. Now onto the most controversial one of them all, the bound gem system.
What the fuck?
It is a 7-day cooldown. That means even if you play as little as 2 of the same class, you can't do the raids on both characters without paying blue crystals to reduce the cooldown. Because yes, that's how you reduce the cooldown time of transferring your gems over after you bind them. Now you can keep them unbound, but it is a pretty significant power loss. So now it's basically the opposite of how the game has been for since forever. Playing multiple of the same class meant that you can focus on having stronger gems and be less of a rat. But now if you choose not to bind them because of that, you're the rat. You're going to just be outright weaker than people with the same gear. And because they have their own separate icon, that means another method to gatekeeping people. But remember, meter wasn't added because they don't want to add to gatekeeping. And moving forward, we can expect to see raids being designed around this power boost that people are getting from these bound gems. You know it, I know it, we all know it. Lost Ark is pay to win, and they are sick of people bypassing buying gems. Maybe people who share gems within their own account, but also people who share gems between accounts. So yeah, this is just purely a greed decision. They want you to pay up. Also, rip anybody who has a support roster, because that means you do have doubles. This whole situation has kind of turned the gem conversation to just kind of a PvP scenario. It's a near even split, even on the host and NVEN. And as somebody who plays 6 different classes on my roster, I get where you guys are coming from, as you've probably felt punished yourself for all this time for playing 6 different classes. but that was a personal choice. But the thing is, that was their solution to the same problem you are seeing, which is the cost of gems and progression is just too much. So this is another example of attacking the symptom and not the disease being just this greedy game design. Stop shitting on each other and shit on the devs. Now, it is generally good that they are finally doing things that they have been opposed to doing for a long time. Them adding revives to raids and also adding cards to the wandering merchants, but also fuck the card system in general, they should just delete that as well. The problem with the good things in this stream is that it's been so overshadowed by the bad things. The main thing being obviously the gem system. I do hope that everybody who said they're going to quit over the system being implemented as it is actually does that. The big changes Gold River did to Lost Ark to tier 3 was because the game was dying. These changes that we're seeing right now is because the game has been in a shit condition for a while. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So yeah, that's it. That's my yap. That's my rant. Yeah, bye.